Again, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. We're going to try to keep it pretty brief and interactive. So if you've got questions, please ask. But just to start off, and Tristan's going to run our slide deck. When you think about VDI, right, many of you already
Sorry,
know the
Wayne, I'm
terms.
sorry, hang on. Do you mind to share, make me the presenter so I can, there, thank you.
Awesome. So I'll keep going, Tristan, let you catch up there.
Yep.
Yeah, so just thinking about that in its most vanilla fashion, right? VDI, thinking about how every organization really needs to use this platform. We've had some cataclysmic events in the last couple of months. So every organization has to deal with this sporadically and then to the best of their ability. So when we started talking to partners, and we're going to kind of go through this a little bit there, VDI is not a core competency of Google or in Google Cloud specifically, but it is something where we partner really well. When you think of Gartner and everything that Gartner's had to kind of do, and as an analyst over the many years, they found just a recent survey in March that I believe there was 70%, and Tristan will show you this in a moment, but 70% of the individual organizations that were polled, or 74%, basically have had to make some changes on the fly to stay in business. That's no different for your organization, right? Ours included. We've adapted and changed and had to make some changes as well. So we've done many things, right? While working remote, for many people is a new norm. It's flexible. Many of us that have been used to traveling, it's not the norm. So we really look forward to kind of sharing some of the best practices with you. But thinking about Google and also Google Cloud, right? We've got a core thing that we do really well, right? Machine learning, analytics, things around networking, security, taking SQL Server, stuff like that. But then we also have a partner ecosystem that bar none is one of the best that I've actually seen and had a chance to work with. And that's depicted there on the far right of the screen there. So kind of fast forwarding there to the next slide, we need to rely on, when we start thinking about VDI, our verbose backbone. This backbone that we have, and being, again, right, a Cisco person for many years, we've had to extend this backbone, and then we make it more secure. We do a lot of transit connectivity. And when you start layering on the many things with regard to VDI, this is extremely important. As you're aware, right, latency costs dollars and cents with respect to the application. So on the backbone, the Google backbone, right, we take this global infrastructure and we make sure that we can extend it across the planet and allow you to do anything and everything across our VPCs and our zones to be able to take this advantage that we provide from a layer 1 through 3 and then allow you to take layers 4 through 7 of the stack with VDI and benefit. So sliding on to the next slide there. There are quite a few things, right, where we focus on the partner space, and you'll see that we're going to focus primarily on 5. And while these are not conclusive of the only partners that do VDI, these are ones that we started partnering with really well. Itopia, Workspot, Citrix, VMware, and of course, X-Frame, when you start thinking about Nutanix. So comparing and contrasting, all of them are good. Tristan and I, having tested them, and many of the other orgs have done those as well. But they each have wonderful, nice little nicks and tricks and that going to make things very easy for you to consume them and then get them deployed in your environment. Itopia, basically, right, born in the cloud, allows you to do some things that are heavily orchestrated to the environment and then allow you to take many of their application stacks and then their automation stack and be able to deploy it as a service offering right on top of GCP. This is really cool because now it allows us to focus on taking some things, and I'll show you here in a diagram in a moment, that are really core competencies to their business and then take advantage of our platform. Starting with Workspot there in a second, you've got many good things that they offer, right? And if you have a Windows 10 environment, you want to back in that and create some turnkey system, then this is great as well. Citrix, a house favorite, right? A norm that many of us have used for many years. While at Cisco, that was my account. So spent many a days taking their platform and helping them make it better and then using Cisco hardware to do such. VMware is a good offering, right? Horizon, and we'll kind of go through some things that make VMware attractive along with how it works in the Google space as well. And then obviously Nutanix has some really nifty features that could be beneficial if that's a preferred partner you like to work with. So moving on, just taking this a layer down. So each of them have some differentiators. And as we look at the middle tier, right, what do they do individually that allow transactions to help out? Obviously, you can read this for yourself on the screen, but all of them play nice in a cloud environment, one. Two, when you start looking at some of the tactical features and licensing and some of the levers that allow them to be great in your business, then that's where you'll start to see that taking a system integrator and being able to partner well with one of the GSIs can make it easier for you to get this off the ground. Having used, again, all of them and testing them, especially over the last couple of weeks, they are really good at making it simple for you to deploy something and then be able to stand up an environment and then tweak the performance so that you can get better output. So let's dig into this just a little bit here. We'll spend just a couple of moments on each one of the slides here. So the first one, Itopia, as I mentioned, right, you start from left to right and you start looking at the environment. So you can't really see the picture in the bottom right, but I'll talk you through it. And all it is you take the Google Cloud Platform and you start looking at the zones. You separate the blue from the green so that you have some high availability, and then you start comparing the public IP space, the private IPs that they'll consume coming back from the client at the bottom, and then you connect that back into their systems. So a few things takes place. You use the firewall rules. You're going to consume remote desktop features. You're going to have Active Directory. You're going to have gateways that are in place. Each one of these gateways specifically will have brokers that will allow you to systemically connect the file service to the remote service back to the client, and then allow the client to be able to take directory services, and then you can pull all of that goodness to your environment for the applications. As mentioned there, using Itopia, you can take behind the scenes and now pull a lot of these stats right out of their environment through BigQuery and then report that back to you from an analytics perspective. So if you think of BigQuery, just again, right, a big tool, a consumption, a massive data warehousing platform that allows you to take schemas and be able to make things look nice and pretty, then this is great for you to use Itopia and then marry these two together so that you can have a wonderful experience. As mentioned before, this is a cloud native tool, so it's very simple to use Itopia. You basically go to the GCP console, you'll basically put in the search bar Itopia, click on basically a jump starter, and then that takes you and extracts and pulls this image in, and then from there you can start working on their platform through the marketplace. So really cool, just an outstanding way for them to consume a service, take VDI, make it simple for you as an end user or a customer to start to taking your environment and then grow the business from a management or monitoring or whatever line of business you happen to focus on. Now, Workspot's another good one as well, because as we mentioned, right, something that makes their environment really unique is that they have a simple footprint. They can take that same domain, give you the VPCs that you're using on our side, take the customer data center, create this dynamic environment, and then make it very simple for you to extract all of that goodness in the environment. What I love dead center there is when you start looking at all those IPs, the CIDR blocks, right, classless interdomain routing, you take the corporate environment, whether I'm doing collaboration and I need to do something over the wire and I'm doing compression, or I can focus on a lot of SAP applications that I need to pass down to the client. All of them are something that can be supported. And again, right, the same fundamental pillars, right, take Active Directory, take their disaster recovery mechanisms, take the management tool, and then marry them together. And then you have a full experience for the end user. What's also good for this environment is that, again, right, it's going to play nice either on-prem or in the cloud specifically, but you'll be able to take and put some of the same security mechanisms that you're used to on-prem, and then expect this to be ready for you day one because it's an enterprise SaaS ready play. So another good offering, it allows you to stay current with the operating system, and that makes things pretty simple. So Citrix, again, right, everyone knows this, right? You've got ICA, you've got the backbone of their business, right? A lot of things with Zen, which you probably used for many, many years. It gives us an opportunity to focus again, right, on how they can connect into a client, spread those clients over a specific distance, and then allow you to use our platform to do some of the concrete connectivity behind the scenes. So as far as separating and configuring and putting a lot of the table stakes down for Citrix, this is also very good when it comes to the dynamics of their configuration, and then more importantly, the configuration elements that we'll use on our platform as well. So using the connectors that you'll see in the Google Cloud area there, and you take a lot of the VDIs, machine types, it's going to allow you to do file sharing just like you've already done. You'll be able to take our load balancers and say, okay, when I've got a desktop, I've got another machine, and I want to balance between how each one of these connectors really need to connect. That's not going to be a problem for you because, again, right, they all function the same way in the Citrix environment. So really love this platform as well. And just kind of wrapping things up here in the next two slides here. This one is a good one. So if you haven't spent a lot of time on the Google side, we've recently released this whole Google Cloud VMware environment. So imagine, right, having a self-contained managed VMware environment running inside of GCP, and then also being able to still use VDI in terms of VMware Horizon, and then be able to make all of them come together. So Horizon natively connects into GCP. What's really nice is that when you start thinking of the connection server, the agents, the client, the administrator, and the whole host of other connections and tools that are used, I didn't even get a chance to expose how the NSXT, right, the transformer stuffs work for all the tunneling behind the scenes with the GCVE and also Horizon works. All that stuff is going to be pretty much transparent to you. But there are a lot of additional underlying things that happen underneath the shell of Horizon that allows you to connect into our environment using compute engine and virtual machines, and then being able to take the data centers that you're used to with vCenter and then marry them together. So really good platform as well, especially if you're quite comfortable in a VMware environment, that you'll be able to get Horizon up and running with VMware and also GCVE. And just wrapping things up here, I wanted to spend a little bit of additional time here just to keep us on track. When you start thinking of Frame, right, Nutanix has a very in-depth offering. And going through the motions here and kind of walking you through the platform, a lot of the goodness that you'll see from this platform around the networking is already a steady state. But if you need APIs, right, programmable interfaces you want to take and you stand up each one of these VMs, those VMs connect back to the cloud. What's nice is that there's a specific connector from their environment to our environment, and then you can connect that back to your premise. So each one of these connectors will give you static workloads. It'll allow you to take the broker. It'll give you what they'll call an identity management gateway. That gateway allows you to integrate all the SAML stuff so that your OAuth works, your single sign-on, sorry. Your single sign-on environment works statically and dynamically back with your IDP, your identity provider. And then this will allow you to have what I'll call a launch pad to get into the framework of the user. So it will give you a very straightforward approach to take and consume a lot of the communications. That way, when you're taking the infrastructure play, and then you're adding all of the provisioning that you're used to when you want to push that down through the client side, the network, the storage, and then some of the images, then you don't have to worry about the stall, the power ups and power downs of the VMs because of the state of the performance. So Nutanix is just, again, they've been around for a while now. They've got a very great platform, good platform. They take a lot of things that they do well and then now partner with regard to their connectors inside of our platform. And that's kind of what you'll see on the next slide as well. That digging into some of the detail where that frame of connectivity and taking the account and then going from a public premise and basically creating that whole approach to their workload managers and all of their remote protocols that they use. This just allows them to take that stream, make sure that stream is compressed enough to where you don't have a negative experience. And then from there, you'll be able to responsibly orchestrate and then do the brokers and break down the identities back down to the client. So from a UI UX perspective, I really like the solution, especially with regard to what they can do with like pooling and take like groups of machines and then allow those workloads to get exposed for whatever application you want to focus on. And just wrapping things up here, when you look at like some of the different design patterns in that last slide there, it really is a culmination of this slide here, right? Where that appliance really works well. You see the communication flow between all the systems, the gateway that's stood up. It's completely isolated, which is in number 1 there. And then you're going to go over a secure connection to make sure that when you're flowing in and out, basically from number 1 all the way through to number 5 and then back, you will have a positive private experience. And then when you start looking at the workload connector, as that gets deployed, then you won't have any breakage in connectivity. So I love a lot of the recovery features. The sessions are going to be steady state. That way, if anything did happen, you'll be able to preserve the connection and then pick right back up where you needed to join the domain. So I believe that pretty much wraps things up. Yeah, so just wrapping things up from the network perspective, as I mentioned, it's private, and from there it allows us to keep a good solid rhythm in terms of their platform. So I wanted to transition to Tristan at this time just to go through some of the Chrome Enterprise things.
Thank you, Wayne. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so really back to what Wayne had talked about, all of the because
hey, Tristan,
we're yes,
Tristan,
sir.
Ron Gerber, I'm a little bit of a propeller head too. And if,
I see that.
so
I've got
nice.
So I'm a little geeky myself with my little propeller head here. Even though I'm not as smart as you guys, I still have get these hats. So in addition to the $100 gift card, I've got 3 of these hats, which, by the way, my kids used when they were going to camp, not in COVID, but like 10 years ago when they were 3 and 4 years old. So I've got these. The hats may be a little small, but if you've got young kids, you'll get a big kick out of them. Anyhow, let me turn over to Tristan, and we've got, in addition to the $100 gift card, stick around, great content, $100 raffle plus 3 propeller heads.
Nice, perfect. That's awesome, Ron. Can everybody hear me okay, Ron? Wayne?
Yep, you sound good, buddy.
Perfect. So back to what Wayne's point was, in the middle of the pandemic, right? A lot of the we're really coming into a new norm where a lot of the offices and a lot of business are starting to support more of a remote workers. Really, the employees are expect to be able to communicate and collaborate from anywhere now, right? As we have seen, starting to work from home and also in the field as well. So really, from a Google perspective, really we look at the cloud connected workers or some of the all of the workers that are out there, whether they're going to be office workers or the remote workers, the workers that are actually in the field, and also the part-time workers, the shift workers, as well as just collaborating, using the different tools that be able to collaborate with people that are remotely distributed in different places. These are all what we call cloud connected workers or cloud workers for short. So to be able to actually securely deploy these these technologies to the cloud workers with these the traditional hardwares and softwares, it's a little bit of a challenge, right? As far as because they're mostly are point systems, right? They only do good with one thing, maybe there are perimeter firewalls that just doing good with firewallings and things like that. Updating the viruses, definitions, and softwares, and patching the OS. All of these things are there could be coming from different vendors and different from different softwares and whatnot. It's just really it's kind of like a hodgepodge where you won't be able to actually really to be able to work with them from closely from a interoperability perspective and integrations perspective. So this is where Google Chrome really come into play, where it provides an end-to-end solution for the cloud workers that we have mentioned about, right? So really thinking about having a end-to-end solution where all the way from a hardware perspective, the Chrome devices, to operating system, Chrome OS, and also the software such as the Chrome browsers that everybody is using today, all the way to Chrome Enterprise, which kind of put them all together, and for an enterprise that be able to manage all of these different endpoints, and also from a productivity perspective, where the G Suites that everybody loved and worked with these days with Gmails and Drives and all of those things, and we just recently renamed the G Suite to Workspace. So just diving into the hardware a little bit, really, what is a Chromebook? I'm sure a lot of people, you guys have seen it. It's really lightweight. It boots up really, really fast because it's a stripped down version of Linux. It's hardened, right? And designed to be simple, affordable, secure, and shareable. So if you look at from the device for any use case, you have the cloud worker at the bottom. Maybe you could use a higher end system such as a Pixelbook or Samsung Pro. But for those shared devices, where for the part-time workers, maybe you could use just a different HP Chromebooks, just a really diverse of different Chromebook and varieties that you'll be able to use for any use case. Now, and also another thing is you wanted to be able to know who's actually using these devices. Now, Titan is actually one of the technology that Google had came up with, where it's a purpose-built chip, right, to establish hardware root of trust for both the machines and peripherals on cloud infrastructure, but also on the hardware devices. So, for example, I'm sure many of you have heard of multi-factor authentication. As a matter of fact, that Wayne and I, when we log into our machines, we always use one of these Titan keys that are FIPS 140-3 compliant, where you would ensure to have that end-to-end encryption, but also be able to have that second factor to say who is actually using the system. So those are from this hardware perspective, and also you can protect the employee without hindering their productivity, right? Because that your workers are remote and you have lesser control, the boundary starting to expand from the office spaces, where you inside of an office building to to remote fields. You want to be able to give them the accessibility, but also have the security and the governance that you want to provide, so that you don't have a data leakage and minimize the attack surfaces, right? So security keys. I mentioned about Titan, right, and Workspace for data loss preventions. It automatically stops the data exfiltration, and also Chromebooks, where you can update the security automatically. So those are from the hardware perspective. From the software perspective, obviously we have the Chrome OS, as many of you may have seen, that runs on the Chromebooks. From the Chrome OS perspective, it has the agility, the simplicity, and as well as the security that I had mentioned about with the hardware back protection and full disk encryption, but also the shareability, where you have this one seamless experience for different end users across multiple devices, right? So that they can log on to different devices without losing their work, because all of their work's actually saved in the cloud. Chrome Enterprise basically comes on top of everything that what I had shown you, where it really provides that enterprise-grade functionality and then controls to securely mobilize your employee, and also reduce the business cost. So if you look at from the productivity perspective, control and security, really that multi-layer enterprise-grade security that I mentioned about, right, from the hardware chips that I mentioned about, the Titan chips, to application sandboxes, which is what comes with the Chrome OS. You can actually do sandboxing of the applications so that they don't actually, you minimize the attack surface, and as well as the support that comes with the Chrome Enterprise. So I mentioned about this, where you can actually have the shareability, right? You can have the continuity across devices. All of the users, their favorite bookmarks and preferences and those type of things will actually get carried over when they log on to different devices. And also use the enterprise app from the Google Play. This is where you can actually customize what application actually approved to be downloaded and installed on the machines, and run natively from mobile to desktop continuity, right? I kind of mentioned about the sandboxing, really just to be able to isolate and manage your applications, the stuff that you have downloaded, your users, your cloud workers that download these applications from the Google Play, to make sure that they're actually approved, and also second, they will be able to, you can make sure that they actually run in a sandbox where you can limit the attack surfaces, and also you can enforce access policies and different things to the applications or these managed applications, so that you have a policy that will be able to, that is secure and also resilient. And Wayne had mentioned about different VDI options that you guys had seen. So another capability with the Chrome is that you can access Windows applications with different VDIs, such as Citrix and VMware, and even Amazon Workspaces, if you guys are using any of those. And finally, really the browser that is built in with the Chrome browser, where you can customize policy. This is very important, where you can actually enforce safe browsing to protect at the scale of all of your remote work, your cloud workers in the remote locations, and also be able to, so for example, you can actually block certain extensions to run on the browser. So really locking it down and also not hindering the productivity for your cloud workers. So one of the other options that you can have with Workspace now is the G Suite, what it was used to call G Suite, where you can actually integrate all of these drives. Everything is in the cloud, so that when you edit and collaborate on the Office files, everything is in the Google Drive in the cloud. You don't have to download out of the files onto the local computers. So that way, first, it actually is much more easier to work between devices, and second is that from a data leakage to your for your organization is much better controlled and governed. So going back to what I had mentioned about, really is a multi-layer security approach, right? I had shown you about the hardware, right? The Chromebooks, where you can reduce the risk with hardware-backed security with Chrome device, but also the operating system, the Chrome OS, where you can secure from boot up to shutdown with privilege separations, all of those things that I had mentioned about, but also using the firmware that's designed by Google with verified boot, and also the workspaces that what you can use. All of these, you have to apply this multi-layer approach to be able to really give a capability to your cloud workers, where they can actually work from remote locations, and also in a secure and also manageable fashion that you'll be able to provide to your users, and not to hinder their productivity. So really combining the Chrome Enterprise and Workspace, or AKA G Suite, you really get unbeatable security across the collaboration tools and endpoints, the multi-layer security approach that I had mentioned about, and also really single pane of glass, where you can manage all of the different devices, all of the different endpoints, that you will be able to have a unified policy applied to these devices, as well as browser settings and operating systems and all of those things. So you have that consistent experience and productive users. So with that, I'd like to thank you.